Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. Here we go. You needed that hit, and I'm giving you that hit. Let me tell you, vatos have to go where the money is. You can't blame anybody for trying to make that money, for trying to get that cheddar. And, it doesn't matter where you're working. If they don't have enough money to pay you, you got to do what you got to do. Now, guys, the reason this story is interesting to me because it has so many layers to it. You could talk about the personalities, you could talk about, development of the console, you could talk about the people. I mean, there is just so much entertainment here for those of us who like this kind of stuff. And if you're subscribed to me, this is the kind of stuff you like. But this is also a learning moment for all of us, right? A lot of people, when they went into this and the battles I was having, 2 years ago, is they were saying they thought they were really investing in the company. The same thing that a lot of people believe, for example, now in Atari when they're doing their investment for these games. The same, deal with Republic. And you're not. You're doing a profit sharing. And not only that, you don't know really who you're investing in. You're investing in Republic. You didn't invest in Television Amico, but let's say, right? Let's just say for the sake of argument that you thought you invested in Television Amico. Well, who owns it? Who owns Intellivision? And what do they do with that money? What type of company is it? Is it incorporated? Is it sole proprietorship? I mean, all those things really, really do matter. They do. Right? For example, here in Television, when it was the LLC, you had a few owners, and those owners have other businesses. So if you guys remember to those past episodes that we did where we were talking about, well, how much time are these guys really spending if they have all these other companies? Now, apparently the crew over at Intellivision was working on WW2K23. Why? Well, that game is going to make money. They can get paid out of that. But how was it done? Right? How was it done, and why is it important to you, for example, as an investor, if you're going to be investing in video games companies? Well, let's look at the Reddit subreddit here, because there's a great commentary by Gatoroos, and he has a lot of, great knowledge of the industry and makes a lot of good points a lot of times. Now, I'm going to link this article below, which is How You're Supposed to Do It, Pat Contry, you a-hole that doesn't give credit to these guys. And there's some other news as far as development. Go check out Tony's last update, where they've been doing small developments. But the reason this is interesting is because you don't know how these people are working, that they're wearing many hats and they work for multiple companies at the same time. Now, how do you work full-time for two different companies? I don't know. I don't know how they're set up, right? So all we can do is talk about examples in other companies. Now, let's get it straight here. There is no legal action against Intellivision by the investors, and even if there was, that legal action would be against Republic, right? So all we can do is talk about different things that could happen in a possible lawsuit, somewhere, right? Not necessarily here, because the lawsuit, if the investors would have one, would be against Republic, not against Intellivision. But let's say, hypothetically, that you invest in a company, and that company happens to be an LLC. Well, what you have to watch out for is who owns that LLC, what type of businesses they have, and if there's any crossover. Because when things cross over in the event of a lawsuit, one of the things you really need to look at is that time billed and the hours of employees' work, especially when they're in two different companies. If you're getting full-time compensation from another company and then you're still doing work for another company, how is that happening, right? And I mean, it can happen, right? You can work as a consultant for one, you can work part-time. There's different ways of spreading that butter. But it gets really messy, especially in a lawsuit, because lawyers go for all those time cards. They go for all that billable time. So let's see what's happening here. So this is what the remaining Intellivision employees, quote unquote, have actually been doing for the past 9 months, working on WWE 2K23. And they're doing that via Quicksilver. In engineering, you have Bill Fisher, Guido, the guy that likes to argue with customers. There's a post here where he's mansplaining to somebody that has 17 years experience, okay, in the industry, why the Intellivision is such a piece of crap so far as development. John Alvarado, Larry Chen, Mike Lemp, Quinn Levine, and John Gaddy. Right? And look at this observation here that is right on point, by the way, by Gataroos, as always. As you probably know, Quicksilver is the other company owned by Intellivision VP Bill Fisher, as well as a robotics company. And all 6 of the other people listed in the credits of the game are also still listed on LinkedIn as employees of Intellivision. But it seems that they've had another priority for the past almost a year, working with Guido on WW2K23. And this is edit. I didn't realize that Free Reddit Report had already noticed this. Sorry, I hadn't seen it discussed. Okay. Guys, let me tell you this. This is where where you get into murky waters on things like this. Is because you don't know how this time is being divided as an investor, right? You don't get to know those things. And like I said, in this case, we're just talking hypotheticals because nobody ever invested in television, right? And as we know now, the money wasn't used for marketing, as Tommy said. But what can you do if you're right? If you're an owner of this type of LLC and you own several companies, well, you can use the employees, in more than one company, right? You have a hardware robotics company, you have this Quicksilver company, and you have Intellivision, and they can bounce around between all. You can wear many hats, but that has to be a clean slate. And you as an investor, you have to really look at what's going on there, right? Because if the company you're investing in, even though it may seem like it has a lot of qualified people on there, if they're only spending 3 hours on the project that you're investing in, you need to pull out right away. You do. Because you're not getting 100% of the effort. Now, I don't care who it is. And let's talk about John Alvarado specifically. If he's not getting money from Intellivision, why is he going to clock in there if there's no possible way that he can earn money from it? But what could happen? Let's talk hypothetically again. This is not legal or financial advice, but what can happen in these type of situations? Right? You can have one company where the employees are earning stock, quote unquote stock, waiting for the next sale, right? The next investment round, and you can pay those employees with stock. You can make them part-timers. You can make them, independent contractors and still pay them with stock. Whether it's John Alvarado or even Phil Adam, right? So there's no big priority there. And they're not going to see any money until somebody else comes in and buys the company out, or there's some other investment coming in. But that's not going to be a priority for anybody. But if you're working on WWE 2K23, you're going to get money from that. Revenue will come from that. How you divide it, it's going to be in a separate company. Of course, Intellivision's not going to see one single dime of that. That you could probably take to the bank, because why are you going to spend any money on a company that's failing and getting sued? It doesn't make any sense, right? The only people that are really going to see any absolute answers at any time, right, at any place, is if anybody actually decides to hold these guys' feet to the fire and start looking where the money went, right? And that is where lawyers get involved, and they start asking for, time cards, billable hours, stuff like that. That's where you could probably get some answers. But here, we already know. We already know, guys, that there is nothing going on in television. That's why, Amico Forever took a knee. That's why these guys aren't working on stuff, because nobody's going to work for free and the money's dried out. So they're going to use these employees working on other things, and that's what they're going to do. And as far as the Amico, will it ever come out? Probably not. There has to be some major financial changes, number one, or a huge lawsuit. And that's really what we're waiting on. We don't know what's going to happen next. Guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking this quick hit with me of the Intellivision Amico, where we can learn about so many things. There's drama. There's finances. There's douchebaggery. There's all kinds of stuff. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.